Our next guest is roughly 25 apples tall and 11,000 cups of coffee into her life. She wears red sequins and stomping boots while writing, then hits up back alley dance bars and honky-tonks. Her stories are full of ghosts, freaks, fools, underdogs, blue-collar heroes, and never giving up even when life is giving you shit. She won the first ever Naked Girls Reading Literary Honors Award and has been a runner-up for the Mary Wollstonecraft Shelley Award. Her first novel, There Is No Lovely End, debuted in 2014. Say hi to her over on Twitter and applaud right now for Patty Templeton, who's also got books for sale.
Okay. Hello, everybody. And yes, I have books to sell and shirts and buttons even. So, if you like me, don't make me go home in the snow with more things. Only thing you need to know is that there are ghosts. The only two persons in this story who can see ghosts are a reverend doctor and a mule. Chapter 11. Beside a creek in Ohio, 1862. Walleye and his mule cart rounded the wooded bend. A medicine wagon was tucked into the trees on the side of the road. A paltry crowd of two rough men stood before it. Walleye was a quarter-mile from the oak Net told him to set down at, and held no intention of stopping. "My good neighbor and noble sir, as the crow flies, you're right on time," said the Reverend Dr. Enton Blake, a tall black man in a black suit with a red string tie. He stood on a shaky fold-out stage. "Keep on, mule," Walleye said, and shook the reins. The mule agreed with this assessment. It saw a smattering of curmudgeonly ghosts that paced before the Reverend Doctor. "I can tell you're an intelligent man from the wide angle of your focus," shouted Enton Blake, "though I cannot cure that roaming eye, and I wouldn't if I could. It makes your visage uncommon and attractive. I can cure many other ailments. Please join us for the next performance." Walleye was well aware of his incurable right eye. It danced a here bit there jig, and Mama Daniels used to knock hard on his forehead and say, "Boy, focus. All you gotta do is focus and it'll fix itself." After years of trying real hard, Walleye finally figured Mama Daniels' cramming and cough wasn't none fixed for that peeper. He didn't need no snake oil man to tell him that. "Don't got all day," muttered one in Enton Blake's crowd of two. So be it, though that's a shame to see a third of my level-headed audience pass by when the music's to start. Enton Blake waggled his hand behind his tailcoat to gather his compatriots. A woman only about 3.5 feet dragged forward a washtub base. A man with a banjo strapped to his back finished pissing in the woods and walked to the other side of the wagon. Walleye slowed the cart. "Mule, they got a banjo man." He hadn't heard a banjo since he could remember since when. The Reverend Dr. Enton Blake snapped his fingers. The banjo man quick-picked, and the woman climbed on her washtub base and thumped a steady line. "Mule, don't tell Ned on me. Don't none say I did this." He let the reins down and itched his stump. He'd lost his left arm, elbow down, in a drunken cactus brawl some years before. "Excellent decision, my sophisticated assembler. Let us appreciate the dulcet, musical stylings of the world's only healing jug band. So powerful is their sound that it's been proven to straighten tangled organs. If you feel the depths of your innards shift, note it is for your betterment." Walleye walked to the medicine wagon and leaned on a sign stuck in the ground. He wasn't so dull he didn't know his letters. Ned had taught him. "The Reverend Dr. Enton Blake's Alleviating Theater, Curative Medicine, Restorative Delights." Walleye took a gander. The road was empty. It paralleled the low creek, which primarily hid behind the trees. The sun was high. He had plenty of time. The banjo man picked quicker. The washtub bass thrummed faster. Walleye set himself to a flat-foot jig. Only folks he cared for the conclusions of was Nat and Mama Daniels and Mule, so hell and fire he'd dance barefoot if he wanted to. Enton Blake gathered 5 jars and covered them in rags, lined them up at the front of the stage. "Ain't no jug," the sun-leathered crowd member yelled. "Ain't no jug band without a jug." Enton Blake curled the tips of his white mustache. The band continued, but softer. "You are a cultured man, a man of expectations," he said to the heckler. "Please excuse my misdirecting remarks. It is my utmost misfortune to inform you that the bottle blower is 6 weeks gone to Richmond, and I have no aptitude for the melodic arts. You see, I'm a healer, a doctor. I have a scientific brain. The Reverend Dr. Enton Blake's my name. It's my honor and glory to meet you in this the invigorating Ohio air. I have cured everything from congressmen their indecision to husbands their private itchin'. Walleye wanted on everyone shutting the hell up so he could full hear the banjo. Man was good. Wasn't looking as he picked either. Closed his eyes. A cloud of dust rose to Walleye's thighs. Cotton fingers ain't got doctor know-how, hollered a man whose hat shaded most of his face. Mule saw the Reverend Doctor's 6 ghosts surround the ill-mannered man. I can assure you, my sophisticated cohort, that I am schooled in. How about we take your wagon, boy? There was a dip in the inside of Enton Blake's bottom lip. It was the accumulation of over 5 decades of biting his mouth shut when someone called him boy. The pack of 6 ghosts did not prefer their patron somber, one of them an elderly woman who in her living years had been the swiftest quilter in 6 counties, stuck her hand, quilting needle and all, in the agitator's stomach. The agitator herked, stumbled, fell to his knees, and the contents of his stomach watered the road. The music continued, but hushed. It was hard for Walleye to hear it above his foot thudding. This chafed his patience. What's wrong with him? What'd you do? Where's your owner? Which one is it? Asked the sun-leathered heckler as he looked back and forth from the washtub bass to the banjo he pulled his 6-shooter. The grounded agitator, though he continued to vomit, said there'll be satisfaction for this. The Reverend Dr. and Blake remained calm. I assure you I am a doctor and a free man. I have papers to prove it. They are posted behind glass on the side of the wagon. I will gather them for display if that assists in the lowering of your weapon. There was a loud bang and the sound of a bullet ripping through something wet. Everyone turned. Walleye had shot the vomiting man. His hurricane had made the music hard to hear. When the sun-leathered man turned on Walleye with his piece raised, Walleye shot him too, both men dead quicker than a bird squirt. The Reverend Dr. Enton Blake's 6 ghosts appreciated the expediency of these actions and the blunt force with which they were accomplished. They went back to pacing the front of the stage. To the band's credit, neither the banjo nor the washtub stopped playing. During the disturbance, Walleye went back to dancing. The Reverend Dr. Enton Blake thought it best not to interrupt his flailing constituent. It took 27 more minutes of hill music before Walleye sweated out his forward-rockered, backward-clogging, hands-heavenward spiral dances. While Walleye danced, the good doctor hid the 2 bodies in the creek reeds. Walleye leaned on the stage in exhaustion. His head rested between 2 of the 5 jars the Reverend Doctor had earlier brought forward. Enton Blake stood on stage and clasped his hands in a prayerful position. Many blessings and much gracious recognition. I can tell you are an analytical and inquiring man. I can tell this because of your brown hat, coat, and trousers, brown being a sturdy and scholarly hue. Walleye didn't lift his head from between the jars. He had to be feeding Mule soon. Beansies for Mule and coffee for him. He was tired. As an analytical and inquiring man, perhaps you would like to know what is in these jars. Enton Blake bent down. Walleye didn't raise his head. Enton's knees cracked. He lifted the rags from the 2 jars bordering the man's skull. 1 jar contained a cleft human hand, and the other a 2-headed squirrel floated long since furless. Walleye hollered and jumped back. Enton Blake took this as a sign of discomfort. It was not. When the Reverend Doctor went to conceal the jars, Walleye grabbed his hand and glared. "Show me a mule more," Walleye said and let go. Walleye's mule brayed. He didn't like being dragged into conversations. Pardon my confusion, I believed I had caused unintentional apprehension. On to the 3 living wonders of these 34 states. He lifted 1 rag. See the teeth of George Washington. Walleye yapped at a pile of gray chumbly crop choppers. The Reverend Doctor lifted another rag, and the horned skull of a dog. Walleye clapped. Finally, see the vessel that's been banned by 17 sheriffs, the pig-nosed miniature mermaid. Alive and well in the depths of the Pacific Ocean, she surfaces naked from the navel up, only on nights of the full moon. Walleye could have sworn he saw the faded cod-tailed thing wink at him from the murky water. And with that, my good friend and discerning defender, might there be a need I may fill for you? Are you well? Is your health high? Do you require doctoral aid for an ailment? I have detected that you are fatigued, debilitated even. Enton inquired because he sincerely wanted fair health for his good, albeit touched, Samaritan. Walleye nodded. Tired. I have a physic for your exhaustion, the Reverend Doctor said. He snapped his finger. The washtub bass player brought forward a blue vial from the back of the wagon. Pfft, not the modest size. The woman frowned, her forehead creased only above each eyebrow. She retrieved a girthy, short bottle from the wagon instead. That's better. If you are weary, if you are downtrodden, if you are now sweating and worn down to your toes, I have something for you. Not even Jonah, coming from the whale, could have had the glide and stride that would follow when you inhale a fingerful of this sanative substance begat from the coca plant. Your heart will accelerate, your blood will fleet foot through your body, you will feel the full potential of the day unfold with only but one sniff. Walleye continued to watch the Reverend Doctor but didn't say anything. I wouldn't have you think of purchasing such a miracle without knowing it was more than melodrama. A fingerful, sir. Anton Blake uncorked the bottle and passed it to Walleye. One finger? Walleye asked. Mule braid. If there was one trait it had learned about Walleye, it was that he was never a one-dose fellow. One fingerful and you'll have the vigor of 12 warriors blessed by the Lord. Walleye sniffed the bottle, didn't smell anything. He dug his finger into the opening and snorted the white and brown powder. The washtub bass player took the bottle. Do you feel it? Do you feel the power in your blood? Walleye did feel it. He felt his head disappear, and he had to put his hand on it to make sure it was still there. He felt his heart hitting his ribs. He felt fast. In thankfulness for your dramatic assistance earlier this morning, I am prepared to vend this colossal bottle, yes sir, this entire and oversized quantity, for the price of not a large vial, not a medium-sized tin, but for the compensation of the smallest parchment packet sold within my stock. Is this a deal, shrewd sir, that you are prepared to close? Walleye blinked. Even his eyes, they felt fast. Give it to me and Mule. The Reverend Doctor nodded. The washtub bass player walked back to Walleye. She tapped him on the remaining elbow, whispered the price. Nut didn't need to know he bought nothing. It was a deal, a bargain. Walleye dug for his billfold and handed over the agreed amount. The woman gave him the bottle. I absolutely guarantee you, upon my honor and profession, that you will, in the very least, have a stimulated step. If this ever does not occur, you may write me here for a full refund. I also advise not more than one snort per several hours. Preferably limit your daily use to no more than 2. Anton Blake handed the man his business card. Everything was lost on Walleye after the business card was in his hand. If the clouds, they moved fast, the water, he wanted his feet in the water. Beans, he was hungry. He'd have beansies with Mule. He'd read him some Beatles till Nat came. No, he'd swim. No, he felt like running. He'd run with Mule. He felt good, doggone good. He'd unhitch Mule and they'd sit together and tap, tap, tap toes in the water and eat beans. And if he felt this fast now, best be that he would be even faster after another snort, which turned into another after that, and another, and another, and another. Who keeps track of the medicine they take? No such thing is too much of a good thing. He had another snort, and another. Mule tried it too. It had been a packed bottle when the tail end of the Reverend Dr. Anton Blake's wagon disappeared from view. The bottle was more than 2/3 empty by nightfall, but Walleye was past keeping track of time, past remembering how he got Mule to take him to the wagon and the meeting oak, past summoning mind how he ended up across the creek, cloaked in scrub, with dirt up his nose, a wobbling head, and the moon shining in his eyes. There's such a thing as too fast. He scratched at his chest, dug nails above his heart, wanted it to calm it, shook his head back and forth and couldn't get clear. Net was nowhere, and Walleye wanted him here.